Grand Celestial Palace, center of the most powerful alien empire. Thousands of nobles watch in silence. The alien princess suddenly kisses a human man in front of everyone. The palace goes completely silent. Guards reach for weapons. Nobles whisper, "A human here." Then the queen speaks one calm sentence. "Finally, we've found a son-in-law." The human man stands confused and calm. He is not dressed like royalty. He does not bow. The nobles are angry and insulted. Humans are known as weak, short-lived, and emotional across the galaxy. Many believe humans should not even be inside the palace. The council demands answers. The human was brought as a translator, a technical advisor, or a low-rank diplomatic helper. He speaks calmly. He listens more than he talks. The princess noticed him first. He treated her like a normal person, not royalty. This confused and fascinated her. Welcome to my channel Starlight Sci-Fi Stories. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The palace was never silent. It was the heart of the stellar dominion, the strongest empire in the known galaxy. Thousands of voices usually filled its halls, nobles arguing, advisors whispering, guards marching in perfect rhythm. But now, there was no sound at all. No breath. No movement. No whisper. Every eye in the grand throne hall was locked on one impossible sight. The princess had just kissed a human. Not a greeting kiss. Not a ritual touch. A real kiss. Her lips had pressed gently against his, in front of the queen, the high council, and the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The human stood frozen. He did not move. He did not speak. He did not understand what he had just become. For 3 full seconds, the universe seemed to stop. Then armor shifted. Several royal guards stepped forward at once, hands moving toward their weapons. Energy blades hummed softly, ready to strike. A noble gasped loudly. "A human," someone whispered in disbelief. Another voice followed, sharp and angry. In the royal court, the silence shattered into chaos. Voices rose from every side of the hall. "This is an insult. Has the princess lost her mind? A primitive species touching royalty." The human slowly stepped back, his heart pounding. He had never planned for this. He was not brave. He was not powerful. He was not even supposed to be standing this close to the throne. He was only there to assist, to translate, to advise, to remain invisible. Yet now, the most important being in the empire had kissed him. The princess turned to face the crowd. Her expression was calm, but her eyes burned with purpose. Before anyone could speak again, a single staff struck the floor. The sound echoed through the hall like thunder. Every voice died instantly. The queen had risen from her throne. She was ancient, tall, and terrifying in her stillness. Her silver crown glowed faintly, powered by technology older than most civilizations. She looked down at the human. Then she looked at her daughter. And then, to the shock of everyone present, the queen smiled. "Finally," she said calmly, her voice carrying across the hall, "we have found a son-in-law." The words hit harder than any weapon. The nobles froze. The guards stopped moving. The council members stared at one another, unsure if they had heard correctly. A son-in-law. A human. The human's mind went blank. Son-in-law. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The High Council erupted. "This is madness," shouted Lord Kethrix, one of the oldest nobles. "Your Majesty, humans are weak, short-lived, and unstable." Another noble stepped forward. "They are barely space-capable. They fight with emotion, not logic." The queen raised one finger. Silence returned instantly. She turned her gaze back to the human. Her eyes studied him deeply, not with anger but with curiosity and something else. Expectation. The human swallowed hard. He could feel thousands of eyes judging him, measuring him, wanting him gone. He was not tall compared to them. He had no armor, no rank markings, no noble blood. Just a simple uniform and tired eyes. The queen spoke again. "This court will remember this moment," she said, "because nothing that happens today is an accident." The murmurs returned, softer now, filled with fear. Nothing was an accident. The human's name was Daniel Reyes. He was from Earth, and he never wanted to be here. Daniel had arrived at the palace 3 weeks earlier as part of a small human diplomatic group. Humans were still new to the galactic stage. Most empires saw them as useful, but not important. Earth had survived only because humans adapted fast. They learned. They copied. They endured. Daniel was chosen because he was calm under pressure. He spoke multiple alien languages. He listened more than he talked. That made him invisible. And invisible people survived longer in alien politics. From the first day, Daniel stayed quiet. He walked where he was told. He translated words without adding emotion. He never looked directly at the throne. That was when the princess noticed him. Princess Elira of the Stellar Dominion had grown tired of lies. Every noble smiled at her, bowed to her, praised her. Daniel did none of those things. When she spoke, he answered honestly. When she asked questions, he thought before replying. When others tried to impress her, he focused on the work. It confused her. So she tested him. Once she asked him what humans thought of the Dominion. Daniel paused. Then he said, "It is powerful, but power without care always breaks." The room had gone quiet that day too. Another time, she asked what he would do if ordered to sacrifice a colony to save a fleet. Daniel answered softly, "I would look for a third choice." Aliens did not look for third choices. They calculated losses. She began asking him more questions. About war. About fear. About survival. Daniel never realized he was being studied. He thought she was just curious. He was wrong. The pressure on Princess Elira was crushing. She was expected to marry soon. Marriage was not love in the Dominion. It was alliance. It was control. Several powerful nobles wanted her hand. Each one would pull the empire in a different direction. The queen watched all of them and rejected all of them because something worse was coming. Something ancient. Something the Dominion had failed to defeat before. The queen needed something different. She needed unpredictability. She needed endurance. She needed a species that refused to die quietly. She needed a human. Back in the throne hall, the High Council demanded a challenge. "If this human is to stand beside the princess," Lord Ketherick said, "then he must prove his worth." The crowd agreed loudly. The queen nodded slowly. "So be it," she said. She turned to Daniel. "You will face the trials of bond," she said. "Trials of mind, command, and sacrifice." Daniel's chest tightened. He had read about the trials. Few survived them. No outsider ever had. He looked at the princess. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Not afraid, but worried. Daniel took a deep breath. He thought of Earth, of humans watching stars they could barely reach, of how often they had been told they were weak. Then he nodded. "I accept," he said. The nobles smiled. The guards relaxed. They were sure now. The human would break. The queen raised her staff again. "The first trial begins now." The floor beneath Daniel shifted. Light surrounded him. The throne hall vanished. Daniel found himself standing alone in a vast combat chamber. Above him, massive screens flickered to life. A voice echoed. Trial 1: The Lost War. A simulation began. Alien fleets appeared, damaged, surrounded, outnumbered. Every previous challenger had charged forward. Everyone had failed. Daniel looked at the battlefield and smiled slightly, not because he felt confident, but because he recognized it. It looked like every war humans had ever fought. Unfair, outnumbered, hopeless. The screen locked. The simulation started, and the entire palace leaned forward in silence. The entire palace watched the screens in complete silence. The simulation had begun. Daniel Reyes stood alone in the center of the virtual command space. Around him floated broken fleets, damaged stations, and retreating signals. The system identified it as the Lost War, a conflict so deadly that no commander in the Dominion's history had ever won it. Every alien challenger had chosen the same path. Attack fast. Strike hard. Die faster. Daniel did not move. The observers whispered. Why does he hesitate? Is he afraid? He has already failed. Princess Elira clenched her hands tightly. She knew this trial was not about speed. It was about thinking differently. But even she did not know if a human could survive what came next. Daniel studied the battlefield quietly. He saw something the others never noticed. The fleet was not weak. It was tired. He issued his first command. All units, he said calmly, pull back. The council members laughed. He is retreating. He wastes time. But Daniel continued. Shut down non-essential systems. Save power. Protect civilians first. The simulation reacted. Civilian transports began to move away from the front lines. Defense ships formed shields instead of attack lines. The enemy advanced. Faster. Stronger. Certain of victory. The Queen leaned forward slightly. Minutes passed. The enemy struck. Ships exploded. Stations fell. Yet the human fleet did not collapse. Daniel sacrificed territory. He gave up planets. Each loss was slow, controlled, and deliberate. The nobles grew restless. This is failure, Lord Kethrix muttered. He is bleeding the empire dry. But the Queen said nothing. She watched. Daniel adjusted tactics constantly. Small ambushes. False signals. Emergency evacuations. He never fought fair. The simulation tried to overwhelm him. It sent stronger waves. Faster enemies. Daniel responded the same way. He endured. Time passed. The system struggled to adapt. For the first time in history, the Lost War did not end quickly. The observers leaned closer. Then something changed. The enemy slowed. Their supply lines stretched. Their formations broke. Daniel waited. Then he spoke one sentence. Now. The human fleet struck. Not at the enemy's weapons. Not at their leaders. At their logistics. Energy carriers exploded. Command relays went dark. The enemy began to starve. The simulation froze. A voice echoed through the chamber. Trial 1 completed. The palace erupted. Shouts filled the hall. That is impossible. No one survives that trial. He cheated the system. The Queen raised her staff. Silence returned. She looked at Daniel with something close to pride. Proceed to trial 2. Daniel barely had time to breathe. The chamber shifted again. This time, he stood on a vast platform surrounded by holographic figures. alien commanders, advisors, civilian leaders. A voice announced, "Trial 2, command." The figures began speaking at once. They argued. They demanded. They blamed. Resources were limited. Every choice meant loss. Daniel listened. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He asked questions. What happens if we do nothing? Who dies first? What can be saved? The advisors grew quiet. One by one they answered. Daniel made decisions slowly. He delegated authority. He trusted others. The system reacted again. Morale rose. Efficiency improved. Losses decreased. The trial stretched longer than expected. The system pushed harder. Mutiny. Fear. Panic. Daniel stood firm. "Survive first," he said. "Victory comes later." The voice returned. Trial 2 completed. Princess Elira exhaled sharply. The nobles were no longer smiling. The final trial came without warning. Daniel was pulled into darkness. Then light. He stood in a ruined city. Smoke filled the air. Bodies lay everywhere. A voice whispered, "Trial 3, sacrifice." A single transport waited nearby. It could save only one group. A family. Or a command unit. Daniel froze. The system watched. The palace held its breath. Daniel closed his eyes. He thought of Earth. Of humans choosing who lived during disasters. Of impossible choices. He opened his eyes. He changed the parameters. He overloaded the transport. It would explode. But it would draw enemy fire. Creating time. Creating chaos. The system protested. This action results in total loss. Daniel nodded. Then make it count. The explosion tore through the battlefield. The enemy retreated. More lives survived than predicted. The city held. The voice spoke softly. Trial 3 completed. The simulation ended. Daniel collapsed to one knee, exhausted. The throne hall reappeared. The palace was silent again. The queen stood. She walked slowly toward Daniel. Every noble watched her. She stopped before him. "You have proven yourself," she said, "not through strength but through survival." She turned to the court. "Humans are dangerous," she said, "not because they conquer but because they endure." She revealed the truth. An ancient enemy was returning. One that the Dominion had never defeated. But humans had. Alone. The marriage was not romance. It was hope. Daniel looked at Princess Elira. She bowed her head. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "You were chosen." Daniel was silent. Then he spoke. "I know," he said. The queen watched him carefully. "You may leave," she said, "or you may stay." Daniel looked at the galaxy around him. At the fear. At the lives at stake. He stood. "I will stay," he said, "because someone has to." The queen nodded once. "Then the Dominion will endure." The palace bowed. The galaxy would remember. Humans had arrived. Not as conquerors, but as protectors. And